Okay, there we go. We're recording, so we can save this for posterity. Let's pray, and then we'll begin. O Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, who art everywhere present and fillest all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us of all impurity, and save our souls, O good one. All right, welcome everyone. Glad that you can join us tonight. I'm in Galveston. I was in Houston for the weekend because we had our liturgical practicum for the South. We've had a couple of liturgical practicums up in the North, and my wife is telling me I'm being very loud. Sorry, my ears are also plugged, so it's kind of a very hobbled existence, I guess, here today. But that's all right. Thank God for everything. We had our liturgical practicum here in the South to help our young fathers to be able to serve the services a little bit better, rather than, well, to understand everything that's going on in the service, why we do it, why we don't do other things, and especially to try to preserve the liturgical practices of the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia. The church in Russia has different liturgical practices, not radically different, but little things, and that's authentic to them. They went through the Soviet times, they struggled, they made some small changes, whereas we lived abroad, and we've took those liturgical practices abroad with us, and so ours are also authentic. The Lord arranged for us to be outside of the communist yoke and for them to be inside the communist yoke. But what we don't want to do is lose our authentic spiritual practices, liturgical practices especially, and that's really important for Archbishop Peter. So in any case, I was leading that down here. It was really great. We had 12 participants, which is just about right. There's 4 instructors. There's myself, 2 of the protodeacons from the diocese, and then Larissa Sander, who's the head of our music commission, liturgical music commission in the diocese. And all of those who participate in this get voice coaching. And that's really important, because if you want to serve as a clergyman, you have to learn how to use your voice appropriately, or it'll be gone by the time you're 40. So in any case, that's what I'm doing down here in the Free State of Texas. And it's always interesting to visit here. And since we were already here, Lisa and I thought we'd take a couple of days before Great Lent and come to Galveston, which is a very interesting historical city. The church here is now a Serbian church, but it was a church of the Russian Orthodox Church. After the revolution happened and things kind of got very crazy in North America for some time, the church ended up in the Serbian church, which is just fine. What's might be interesting for you to know is that the original priest who was sent to serve here in Galveston, because Galveston was the ship port. Houston wasn't much of anything for quite some time. So in the 19th century, Galveston was the big important city. And because it was a ship port, there were a lot of Russian ships coming through, and the emperor wanted to make sure that there was a church here so that the sailors could have spiritual nourishment when they were here. And the priest that he sent was one of the tutors to the imperial household. He was Greek, but educated also in Russia, and he was sent here. He was an archimandrite, and there's a very active investigation into the sanctity of his life in the Serbian church, and we're participating in that, of course, as well, since he was in the Russian church at that time. So I can't say what will happen, but I think there's a decent chance that he will be glorified as a saint in our days. So anyway, it's interesting to be here and to see that. I want to remind everyone to arrange to get their houses blessed, whether you live in a mansion or a one-room garden shack. It doesn't really matter. The house should be blessed every year. And we want to remind people that Great Lent is coming, and it's best to do it before then. We can do it up to the 5th week, but it just gets really busy during Great Lent. So try to arrange that if you can beforehand. The annual meeting is coming up. It's March 10th, and the reports are starting to get put up on Blogtushka, and go have a look at them there. I updated several of them today because for the annual meeting, we don't give reports. We just allow people to ask questions on the reports that were previously submitted. For those of you who will be at your first annual meeting, we're talking about the difference between 3 to 4 hours and maybe an hour in a little bit more. If we let people give reports, it's endless and endless and endless. So we started doing this quite a few years ago. And for those who are St. Vladimir's folks, please remember to arrange your membership in time for the meeting. We had a great sermon on Sunday because I was not there. That meant that somebody else gave the sermon and it was good. It was Father Dimitri, and I was actually so sick that I didn't get to serve on Sunday after the liturgical practicum. I'm not sure what kind of cooties they have here in Texas, but I probably brought them with me in any case. So I was able to listen a little bit. It was great. But Father Dimitri, being sneaky as he is, didn't give a heads up to the video team that he was going to give the sermon at a different time of the service. And so we weren't able to capture it. But we're onto his tricks now. And even if he tries that again, we're going to be ready. There won't be liturgy this Wednesday because there's no school this Wednesday. They have a day off at Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy. And speaking of which, right now, everything is Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy. We live and breathe that as we try to make sure that everybody learns about the awesome education that we offer to Orthodox kids and also to other kids who are, as long as the parents are willing to let their children go through the chapel and Law of God programs, they're welcome too. We've got our tuition down to $500 a month. It's really an exciting time, but people can't participate in something they don't know about. So please try to spread the word, let people know, so that we have a nice, strong opening of the school in the fall. Also, it's the ball tickets are all gone now. But if you want to make a donation to help us get to our $10,000 goal to support scholarships, which is what the ball is all about, you're welcome to do that. That's everything that I wanted to let you know about, except we have a really great youth gathering happening in Germany. That's going to be from June 24th to July 1st. It's called the All Abroad Youth Conference. That happens about every 4 years. Due to the pandemic, things got kind of messed up. There was a small one for North America in Utah a couple of years ago, but now this is the big one for the whole world. And so I think that's very exciting. We have several people from our parish who have participated, several others from throughout the diocese. And I think that's something really great for the future leaders of our Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. So we ask your prayers for all of those folks and for me. I guess you have to pray for them more because I was appointed to go there and participate in the conference. So they even can't escape me when they go over the Atlantic Ocean. All right, brothers and sisters, that's all that I have to say to begin here, except to remind that there is no fasting this week because we had the Sunday of the publican and the Pharisee yesterday. And the Pharisee, because of his pride, everything that he did, which was ostensibly good, including fasting, was wasted, destroyed by the pride. And therefore we do not fast this week out of a sense of humility, so that we will not have the prideful fast of the Pharisee in Great Lent, which is quickly approaching. So don't forget, do not fast at all this week, neither on Wednesday or Friday nor any other day. Someone asked me once, what about if you're a vegan? I think as Orthodox Christians, there may be very good reasons to be a vegan. I mean, the Lord gave us the earth, the animals, to care for them, and also for us. And so it's perfectly okay to eat animals at certain times of the year. Other times of the year, we abstain. We have a responsibility to slaughter those animals humanely, and so on and so forth. We're not here to cause a ruckus. We're here to care for the garden which the Lord gave us. So some people may be vegans if that's for reasons of conscience. I mean, I get it. I don't happen to be one myself, except for half the year. I think that's probably enough. But in any case, I think there's a very instructive story from the St. John the Baptist Skeet on Valam, which is an island archipelago. There's several islands on there, north of St. Petersburg in Lake Ladoga. Valam is the monastery that sent the monks that were the original mission to North America, to Alaska. St. Herman of Alaska came from there. That skeet of St. John the Baptist at that time, and again now today, has been fully restored, and they've also adopted the same rule that they had there before the revolution, which was that this skeet, the Great Lenten Fast, is observed every day. Every day. They never eat any meat or dairy products there, nor do they eat fish, I think, except on great feasts. On great feasts, I believe they eat fish. In any case, they have essentially a great Lenten fast there all the time. It's a special sort of rigor and struggle. It's surely not for everyone, but for a select few. And it was always small. They have about a dozen fathers there now, and they had about a dozen before the revolution. In any case, their rule was to fast so strictly, yet on Pascha, they broke the fast because it says in the Typicon that the fast is broken. So each father received at the Paschal Trapeza an egg, and he ate that egg, and then the next day they went back to their Great Lenten fasting during Bread Week, or maybe they started the day after Thomas Sunday. Maybe every day of Bread Week they had an egg. Can't remember, something like that. In any case, it seems to me on these weeks when we're not allowed, when we're not supposed to fast, that those who are vegans should probably be having an egg every day or a drink of milk or some little thing, especially this week, which is all about not fasting because of humility to fight pride. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'm sure there's people who would disagree with me. Not that that's anything new, but that seems to make some sense to me. I think we have to look at our fathers, those who came before us, and what they practiced and how they practiced. And this should inform what we do today, not just our own modern wisdom, but to see how it was that the fathers dealt with these questions. And I think that's a real instructive story, that life from that very, very, very strict skeet about how they did that. I wonder if during this week also they were supposed to break the fast. I wouldn't be surprised. It makes perfect sense from the church's point of view. Okay, so let's start to get our questions ready. A couple of questions were sent in ahead of time, so I'll address those first, and then we can go from there. The first question is, why did Christ descend into hell when he died? What is there a greater significance to this? So it's a great question. Why did Christ descend into hell when he died? We have to take a couple of steps back first and understand that the Hebrews, all of them, the righteous, the unrighteous, all of them, were not able to attain paradise. Right? Adam and Eve were cast out. An angel was set before the garden with a flaming sword. No one could re-enter. It was not possible. It was only with the advent of Christ that paradise could again be attained by mankind. And so all of the Hebrews were waiting in a place that they called Sheol. Essentially, that means like a dark place. And they were waiting for the Messiah, which they knew would come. This first gospel is already found in Genesis. It's 3:16, I think. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to make sure that I give you the right chapter and verse while we do this. Hold on for a second. Thankfully, the Lord has sent us smartphone so I can bring that with me instead of carrying a copy of the gospel. So that close now. It's the part where the serpent will bite at the heel of Eve, at the woman, but she will crush his head. Oh, there it is. Okay. 3:15. So the Hebrews understood this to be good news, that although they would eat the bread by the sweat of their brow, that there would be travail in bringing forth children, all of these things, they understood that somehow through a woman, a child will be born, which will free them. So even in their earliest sort of understandings of this, in the very sort of nascent Hebrew understanding, and from that time forward, they understood that the Messiah will come. It became more and more clear through the prophets. And so they were waiting. They were waiting in Sheol, this dark place. But it wasn't that Jesus Christ just showed up there. Remember that St. John the Baptist had been killed some time before. St. John the Baptist was one of those people that couldn't be quiet. You probably all know some of those people. They just can't, under any circumstances. When they know the truth, they have to say it. And it doesn't matter what company they're in, it doesn't matter whatever. There's no filter. They just have to say the truth. I think there's some good to that. I'm not mocking it. But that's the way that he was, and I think we all know people like that. Why we would think that he was like that in the world, and then when he died and was sent to Sheol with all of the rest of the people of the Old Testament, that all of a sudden he got quiet, I doubt that very sincerely. That seems not a very likely scenario whatsoever. The most likely scenario is that he kept not being quiet and kept preaching that the Messiah was in the world and that people were about to be freed and that paradise would again be open. And so Christ came and freed those people who were shackled there. Who it wasn't a torture like Bugs Bunny or Tom and Jerry hell, where there's these demons poking people with forks. Nothing like that. But it was dark and they couldn't leave. So that's what I mean, shackles. That's why the Paschal icon always has broken locks and keys and bands and things like that. The descent of Christ into hell is also known as the harrowing of hell, where he destroyed it. He destroyed it and he freed all the righteous who had lived from time immemorial, from Adam and Eve. And those are the people that he's often pulling up. You see the icon in the middle is Christ rising, and he's usually holding either two people or one person. Either he's got Adam's hand and he's pulling him, or Adam and Eve. It just depends on there are various depictions. In any case, this is why Christ went to hell first, to harrow it, to destroy it, and to free all those people, all those righteous people who had been waiting from the time of the creation of man to again attain to the paradise which had been lost. So this is essentially the story of Holy Saturday. And this is why we have the procession on Holy Saturday at the Matin service, by recess around the church 3 times, because Christ descended into hell and he was there a portion of 3 days. How does that work? He was killed on Friday. That's 1. He was there on Saturday. That's 2. And on the first moment of Sunday, he rose. That's 3. So this is the reason why Christ descended into hell, was to free all the captives that had been held there. And this is what we celebrate essentially every Holy Saturday, the great Sabbath, quote unquote, of Christ, as he lays bodily in the tomb, but in his soul is destroying hell. It's a great part of being an Orthodox Christian. All right. Next question. Why do we sing eternal memory for those who have died? This also harkens back to the Old Testament. The understanding and this idea of eternal memory, this was an idea, an Old Testament idea that just came into the New Testament. This is something that was accepted by the first people and first Christians and just continued. There are several of these things that are like this. This is maybe even the best known one, but there are some others. Because if God does not remember us, we do not exist. So we pray for eternal memory, not that the people on earth will remember the person. It's a nice romantic idea. It's not that. We're asking God to always remember that person. We're praying to God for that person's eternal salvation. Because, as I said, if God doesn't remember you, you don't exist. Whereas if God remembers you, you do. And so this is where our hymn of eternal memory comes from. It's about eternal existence with God. So I hope that answered those questions. Um, excuse me, try not to cough in your ears too much. Let's open it up now, friends. Two questions for those who are on the broadcast. I'll be very happy to answer any questions, or at least attempt to answer any questions that you may have. I can see you there. I know you're there. Since I'm broadcasting from remote location, I guess I could ask. Oh, Jackie's raised her hand. Go ahead, Jackie. You're still muted. Yep, there you are.
Did I hear you right? Right, you're in Texas.
I am. Yep. It's very nice. Houston for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now we're in Galveston for a few days.
Oh, okay, cool. I was born in Houston.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. I like Texas. First time my wife is here, so yeah, it's great to be here.
So we just have a question. What is the procedure for like a mission like ours where sponsors and godparents are not plentiful?
Yeah, this is a real issue. It's a real issue, and we're gonna have to figure this out. Usually, what happens is people are imported. But it's often someone you know, right? It's not usually it's about adults. It's usually we're talking about baptizing children. So someone that you know from your Orthodox life, maybe from where you were before, comes. But this is impractical in this situation because who's going to come on Holy Saturday, right? So we have to think about this. I'm going to talk with Father Silouan about it and see what his thoughts are. I think that because the first people probably have a lot less flexibility in who they get to choose, just because there's such a limited number of people. But with God's help, we'll figure that out. We need one adult male because the man could be a sponsor of more than one. Actually, a man could be a sponsor of all the men, and a woman could be the sponsor of all the women. I mean that I'm not saying we're going to do that, but that could be done. So it can be one person can have multiple, can sponsor multiple people at the same time. So that may be helpful as we try to figure this thing out.
Right.
I'm sorry to cough in everybody's ear. Please forgive me. I think we should talk about this a little bit, as we don't need to have it. Not everybody who's on the call needs to know all the details, but to who you have in mind. Like, I assume you've talked to Emily about this. Maybe you have an idea of who they have in mind. And I think that could be a helpful thing if we begin to just start to bandy around names. Like, I don't even know if Father Kevin's going to serve that day. Maybe. But if not, he could come. He could be a sponsor for someone. So like, I think we might have some flexibility. Maybe you can grab a little bit of time on my calendar and we can start
Okay.
to boil this down because it's time. Now Great Lent is beginning. We should know this before Great Lent begins, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Will do.
Good question. Excellent question. Other questions, friends? Jackie's joining us from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Linda is somewhere north of me. It's a very unlikely scenario, but it is true. Being this far south in Texas, I do believe, Linda, that you are north of my present location, but nonetheless very far in the south. And then Tim is back at home. Any other questions folks have that they'd like to address while we're here together? I'd like to ask folks about the quality of the audio. I've never done this before with these headphones. Usually I do have headphones on, but you can't see them because they're in my ears. I forgot those ones at home. This is what I travel with because they muffle the noise on the airplane. So this is what I've got. And but who knows, maybe this turns in, if this is better than what it usually is, then maybe we'll use this more than the other way.
Well, Stephen likes your headphones. He said he passed by and glanced over, and you look like a spaceman. That's what he
I've been called a lot worse even today, so that's great. Excellent. Okay, folks, it's 8:30. Excuse me. Let's do the going once, twice, three times, and see if anyone has any other questions. And if not, then we'll call it a night, and we'll look forward to talking to people next Monday. That will work. The Monday after that will work, and then the first week of a Great Lent, I don't think we'll try to do the thing because it just gets really crazy. Okay, Jackie, I see you. Raise your hand.
I thought of another question. We were at
Mhm.
I took the kids out to lunch, and we were going to say our prayers, and Elizabeth was kind of like she was embarrassed about
Mhm.
standing up and saying the prayers. Do you, when you're out in a restaurant, do you still stand when you pray?
Depends on the situation. It's important for us to pray, for sure. Um, the the country in which we live in, people are used to saying grace sitting down. That's just a common practice of Americans. I think English people do this too. It's a pretty common Western practice to pray sitting down. So I have always thought that's perfectly fine as long as we say our prayers and make our cross. Nothing wrong with that. At our liturgical practicum that we had this week, we wrapped up, of course, with Sunday liturgy, but it's very intense. It's like 12 to 14 hours a day. So everyone is really just exhausted. And we have a banquet on Sunday after vigil, when, of course, everyone is exhausted. But we went to, I don't remember the place we went to. Anyway, it was a private, we had like a private dining room within the restaurant. It's called Federal something. Anyway, but it was glass. We were encased in glass. It was silent. We couldn't hear anyone, and no one could hear us. But we were the only ones there, so we decided we're gonna stand up and we're gonna, sing Our Father. And it was great. It was wonderful. I'm sure the other people in the restaurant had no idea what was going on, but it was just all us, and so we did that. But as a rule, I generally do it sitting down. But I do for sure pray because I think it's really important. And I happen to know of at least one family who came to Christ because they saw Orthodox Christian people praying at a cafe. And they came over to them afterwards. This was in Chile, and said, "Why do you cross yourselves backwards?" And that was the beginning of the conversation that brought them eventually to the Orthodox Church. So I think that it's important that we do this. We shouldn't get up on the table, stand or make prostrations or like cause a bunch of ruckus. But we have to be true to who we are too. It's a good question. Marty, welcome. I see that you're here with us. We're getting ready to wrap up.
Oh, sorry.
I wonder if you brought any questions with you.
No, I just wanted to learn something if I could.
Super. How's pastoral school going?
We got to talk about that, Father.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. Okay, that's super. So everyone else has had ample opportunity to ask questions. So I think we're gonna wrap for the night. Marty, what you missed will be up on YouTube tomorrow.
Excellent.
All right, great.
Thank you.
So everybody, let's do this again. Last chance for questions. Going once, going twice, going three times. Thank you to everyone who's wishing me good health. by your prayers. Please pray for us. Let's say a prayer and we will say goodbye. It is truly meet to bless thee, the Theotokos, ever blessed and most blameless and mother of our God, more honorable than the cherubim and beyond compare more glorious than the seraphim, who without corruption gave us birth to God, the Word, the very Theotokos, thee do we magnify. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Good night.